Hi, friends. I'm Courtney. I'm a performer, speaker, and a writer. I'm a mama to 3 crazy boys and a super sweet dog. I decided 12 years ago that I needed to create a business that worked for me instead of me working for it. I'm a multi-passionate entrepreneur who may be considered a serial entrepreneur by some, but then I realized that all of my businesses focused on connection, community, and creating an incredible experience. I cannot wait to share with you how to make small but mighty changes in your life to affect your overall well-being and create a life and business you want to get up in the morning for. That's right, my friends. I am the Renaissance Mama. Hi friends, it's me, Courtney, the Renaissance Mama, and I want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to check out the show. And I'm going to ask you a big favor right now. If you haven't done so already, would you please consider sharing this show with a friend, someone who you think needs to hear it, because I love my audience and I want it to keep growing and I want to keep on sharing and really just share as much as I can with as many people as I can. And if you have another moment, maybe you could even leave me a review, because I love hearing from you guys and what you are thinking. So today's episode, this is something that has been weighing on my heart for a while now. It is something that is so huge and I think is going to change so many people's lives in the next few years. Today, we're talking about AI, artificial intelligence. But why I think I've been sort of sitting on this episode for so long is, number one, I am by no means an expert on AI. But I am somebody who's really willing to learn. And I'm also someone who strongly believes in using tools and resources. For the longest time, I've always been the person to say, hey, I'm trying something new, or I need information about that, or I want to do this. I'm sure there's an app for that. I have used apps in the past when I am trying to maybe change a habit. Maybe it's something like I want to drink more water and I want to keep track of it. There is an app for that. I've used it. When I wanted to try a different kind of eating, I tried a keto style lifestyle a few years back, and the easiest way to do it was having an app to give me information, an app that I could, write down my intake, an app that was supporting me make these decisions. So I've always been a firm believer that if there's a tool and a resource that you can use to make life better, to make things easier, then go ahead and use it. But AI is growing bigger than I think anybody anticipated. And the way people are using it now is absolutely incredible. But I can also see on the other side why some people are a little bit hesitant, just where to get started, how to do it. That is what we're going to chat about today. I'm going to chat with you all about how I am personally using it. So once again, not an expert, but a regular mom and a business owner, because I think they're both very different ways you can use it, but very similar. And once again, if you are not using it, I strongly think you might get left behind. If you think about it, AI is making it so much easier for people to do certain things, and they are able to do it so much quicker. So if you don't hop on this bandwagon, I don't want you getting left behind. The first thing I kind of want to look at, though, when we are talking about AI is I do want to address some of the concerns, some of the conversations I've been having with people, and where they get a little bit nervous when we're talking about AI. And I think the first thing we kind of need to realize or accept is that AI has been around for a while. You've probably been using it without really even knowing that's what you're using? Do you happen to have an Alexa in your house, or maybe a Google Home, or do you ever use your phone and use Siri? If you have, those are different versions of AI. Have you ever been looking at something and all of a sudden had, an ad pop up that is something that you may have been talking about or something you may have been searching earlier? Once again, AI. Have you in your email ever been, sent an email saying that something looks like fraud? Once again, it's AI. So I think once people start realizing okay, wait a minute, I have been using this already, I think people will slowly start kind of getting comfortable with using AI even more. The second thing that a lot of people are a little bit hesitant about when they're talking about AI is the privacy issues. So I can completely understand that, whether it is something you are doing about your family or maybe your business. I would just suggest for now not to put out all the information when you are trying to work with whatever AI that you're using, but maybe just really looking at their privacy policies depending on what app you're using. I would also highly suggest using more reputable and popular apps. Then we know, okay, they've been around for a little bit. Maybe they're a little bit easier to trust. I myself I started originally using a copy AI. I started months and months ago, was kind of my first little way I was putting my toes into the water, testing it out, and I absolutely loved it. Now I have been using the Chat GPT, and you can start off totally free. You can start off just playing around with it, but you don't have to really worry about it not being reputable. It's a very good company. It's been around for a bit. Once again, if you are nervous about privacy or security or anything like that, I would just not give that certain information to the AI when you're asking for things and when you're giving it prompts. I wouldn't give it anything that I wasn't comfortable if it did get out, not being too upset. So that's kind of how I look at that. I can guarantee there's probably going to be a whole bunch happening within the next year or 2 years on how to really, keep your information private when you're working on AI. But if it is something you are concerned about, that is how I would go about it. And then another concern I've heard from a lot of people is that they think AI is going to take away people's jobs. And I can definitely see where that can be coming from. I myself have, like I said, I've been using it more and more, and the amount that it can help, it can write an email like that. An email that I could have spent hours before trying to, make it perfect. I still check it. I don't just send it and go. That's another thing. We'll chat about it. But I definitely see how people would be concerned that it could potentially take jobs away. But I also firmly believe that AI is a tool. So for example, if I'm talking about copy, and if you were to normally, invest in someone to write copy for you, then do you think those copywriters are going to be out of the job? I think those copywriters are just going to use AI to be even faster. They are going to use that tool and use that resource to be the best as they possibly can be. So it might be eventually, your jobs might change a little bit. I think there's going to be some brand new jobs that nobody's ever even thought about now that AI is becoming such a useful tool. And then the last thing that I've heard a lot of people kind of just being a little bit hesitant about when we're talking about AI is they don't want to lose their personal touch. This one I can completely agree with. And the best way I heard this described was in a workshop. It was, you have to think of AI and your relationship with it as like a dance. So if I'm creating an email to, I don't know, set clients, let's say I'm writing out a beautiful thank you email to a client. So I could go into ChatGPT and say, write this email. But what's fun about AI is it doesn't need to end there. That is usually my starting point. So it gives me this beautiful email, but I want to add more of my personality. So you can change it and say, make it a little bit more casual, make it a little bit more funny. Sometimes I add 2 or 3 parts, put it together, then I add back to my own personality, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a cookie cutter response or email. That AI is really just starting that conversation for me. It's helping me, starting that email. Give me something that I can work with, and then I add my personality to it. So that's where the dance comes in. You don't want to just get, AI to create something for you and send it off and claim it as your own, because that's not going to feel very genuine for anybody. But if it gives you that starting point and then you're able to tweak it and add your personality, add who you are, eventually it could actually learn more about you and how you write and what you're all about, that it maybe could create that whole email for you, and there may be less and less tweaks for you to do. But if you are worried about using AI and losing that personal touch, just always think of that dance. Think of it as that conversation. Think of it as that starting point, helping you out, and then you are still adding you. You are still the one in charge. We're not worrying about computers, taking over the world and doing our job for us. So it's definitely a concern, but I highly think there's ways you can kind of work around it. All right, so I hope I haven't scared you so much. I hope you're ready to start chatting about AI, how I've been using it, how I find it so helpful, not only in my business, but for my home life, and how there are ways you can get started today. So let's start talking about how you can use AI at home. Like I said before, maybe you already have an Alexa. I love having an Alexa in my kitchen to play music, to let me set multiple timers for, I ask questions sometimes about something that I'm making. So I'm thinking that a lot of people are already using that sort of AI in their household. But maybe you haven't thought of some of the ways that you could be using AI, and I'm talking more this time about that ChatGPT as a parent and as a busy mama. Come on. So one of the first things I've been using with AI, I told you guys before, but writing copy. So writing emails sometimes, let's be honest, it can be a pain in the butt. But with ChatGPT, you can literally hop on and write, create a sincere, warm, heartfelt email to my best friend about her birthday party or whatever. I'm making this up on the spot clearly, but that is just to give you an example of how you can use AI. Then, like what I said before, it's that dance. So you can see what it generates, and it generates in 20 seconds, not even. So quick. You can see what it generates, and then you can change it. You can go from there. You can say, can you make this funnier? Change this to make it a little bit shorter. Change it so it's a little bit more casual. Whatever you want, you can change it. And then you could also move things around. You could put more of your words into it. You could add your personality back into it. But using ChatGPT for copy and emails and things like that has been amazing. The other day, I was prepping a sponsorship letter for my kids' hockey team. So, not a shocker, but I got voluntold to be the manager of not one, but two of my kids' hockey teams. And I, of course, said yes because I love them and I love the team and I want them to have the best experience possible. But some days it feels like it's another job. There's a lot of little details and things that I just don't have time for. So I hopped on ChatGPT and I asked it to create a sponsorship letter about a hockey team, and within 20 seconds, there was this beautiful letter. So once again, I took that and I changed it. I made it my own, but that is just one way you could start trying to use AI in your everyday life. Another thing that I'm really excited about to try out is using AI when it comes to recipes. So once again, you could hop onto ChatGPT and say, create me a meal plan for a low carb keto style lifestyle. And it will pop up a meal plan for you. Once again, in like minutes. Then you can go from there and change it. Maybe you don't want red meat. Maybe you don't want mushrooms. Maybe you don't want, I don't know. But you can change it and you can adapt it. You could also use it if you are thinking, what am I going to make for dinner tonight? Create a list of what I can make for dinner tonight, and ChatGPT will pop up a list for you. Then you could get even more specific. Create me a list for dinner tonight with these ingredients, and you could write out the exact ingredients that you have in your household right now, in your pantry, in your fridge, whatever it may be, and boop, it will pop up a list for you. So come on, how cool is that? How long have I been saying, I'm gonna start meal planning, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, but then when it actually comes down to it, I'm not so great at keeping up with it. So now that I have this little assistant, I'm not like Googling for hours, this might be something I'm going to look into. I also find using AI is really, really good when I'm trying to brainstorm. If I, get stuck trying to think of, let's say, gift ideas for a 7-year-old boy, you can write that into it and it will pop up a list of gift ideas. Amazing, right? So these are all things that you're like, okay, Courtney, I could have Googled that before. That's not that big of a deal. But when it's generating it really, really quickly, and then you're able to like make those tweaks and it once again generates it just for you, then I think there's a bit of an advantage there. I don't know about you guys, but I have been, I've spent hours Googling different things and, researching things, and it just takes a long time. Whereas when you're using this kind of AI and really getting specific and changing the prompts and making it just for exactly what you need or want, it is really, really helpful. Another way busy mamas could use AI is if you have to help your kiddos with their homework. So I actually have no idea how schools and teachers are going to, what are they going to do with AI? I have no idea, but I don't know. I don't even know if I'm going to use it with my kids to help with homework. Once again, maybe to brainstorm, maybe to give some ideas. But I like I said, I think teachers are going to have a very, very hard time trying to spot AI, because AI, unlike, I was going to say in my days, but it was probably even later than that, where people could, Google and find an essay. AI is actually created like right then and there. The concept of AI is that it's using human-like behavior. So if I were to say, write an essay about, let's say, Napoleon, it would actually be a brand new essay that has never been created before. So it's not even like teachers can say it's plagiarized, but of course we don't want to tell our kids that they could just hop on an AI and create an essay. So AI definitely could be used as a parent. In fact, I think that's probably going to be the rule in my house, as if kids are doing homework, I will have to be aware of how they're doing it. And I will say AI is not allowed doing your homework unless you come to mom first. You could also use AI when you are tracking appointments or, working with your calendars. You can try and use it to share your calendar with other family members. You can use AI to give you suggestions on how to balance your books or create budgets around the house. You could create chore lists. Like, really, there are so many ways that moms and parents could use AI within their household. And it doesn't have to be scary, and it doesn't have to be this like big learning curve or a time consuming thing. But I would highly suggest that you start simple, start small, and just play around with it, because you might be surprised. You might be surprised that there is a way you can use it that you never even thought of before. All right, so I've talked a little bit about how to use AI at home. Now let's chat a little bit about how to use it as a business owner, especially a small business owner. So I think, once again, instead of looking at AI as like something scary or something you have to learn or something that's overwhelming, because I kind of felt like that in the beginning, I would say start small and start with how you can see it, useful for you. So like I told you before, for me, I started a while back using AI to help me with copy. I feel like I'm one of those people that I love to talk. Like, throw me in front of a camera and I can chat and we can have a good conversation. But I find I'm very kind of open and honest and to the point. That is my style, which is fine. That's who I am. But sometimes when you're trying to write an email to somebody, or when you're trying to create an amazing sales page, or even when you're trying to post something on social media, I always felt that my copy was a little bit basic, a little bit kind of just the bare bones. I always sort of joked that, like, when I send an email, I write the information first and then I kind of have to go back and fluff it up. So when I started using AI, and originally I started with something that was just copy, it was called Copy AI. It really gave me this confidence. It kind of got me out of my head, and it just would always give me that like stepping stone to start off with. So I would literally put in like, for the podcast, maybe a podcast description about a show called this. So I actually could give it the title that I already knew I wanted, and I knew what the show was about, and it would create this description for me. So once again, you start the dance. I would change it up a little bit. I would sometimes like take parts of it. Sometimes I took none of it, right? So it really was just this beginning point. It would get me out of my head. It gave me that confidence boost. But I also found sometimes it just made me inspired. It would use words that maybe I wouldn't have used. So then it kind of like got me thinking more and kind of got me out of being stuck or overwhelmed. So copy is a huge way that I use AI in my business, especially when you're writing, like I said, sales pages or emails to people, or even just posting on social media. You can be that specific when you're on even chat GPT. You can say, create a Instagram caption about a picture that's this, and it will even put in little emojis for you. So it can help you out. Maybe you could also use it, if I'm talking more about that copy still, hashtags. None of us know the right hashtags to put. That is something that AI can help you out with. So copy was my first sort of stepping stone at really using AI within my business. And those things I mentioned before, you still keep your personality because you're still tweaking it. You're still using it. You would never just say create an email and send it right out, because that wouldn't be genuine. That wouldn't be you. So using AI as a tool and a resource, that's how you start off with. So copy was my number one thing I first started using with it. Definitely, it has helped me brainstorming. Once again, sometimes I get stuck in my head, or sometimes I'm trying to think about things. You could use AI to create a title for something. So a lot of the times when I'm doing titles for my shows or anything like that, I tell it to create a list of titles about a show about this, and it gives me a list. And a lot of times I kind of pick and choose, and then sometimes I add my own things to that as well. So it really is just that stepping stone, a starting point to really get those creative juices flowing. One thing a lot of small businesses and people, are running their side hustles, whatever you're doing, struggle with content, making content, creating content, brainstorming content. This is something that AI could totally help you out with. So once again, hopping into ChatGPT and really just asking, you can ask them to create a content calendar for you. You could start brainstorming different marketing ideas. There's so many options. It really, really is endless. But once again, you want to start small. You want to have that dance back and forth, and you really want to start playing around with what you are comfortable with. At the end of the day, you are still the one in charge. It is still your business, but you are able to kind of really just start working with it and seeing what works for you. When I was in one of these workshops for AI, one of another business owners said that what she's finding that is helping her, and I think I have to agree, is that sometimes my mind is just go all the time. Like I'm just boom, boom, boom. It's hard to focus on one thing. So when she's talking about like creating content or anything like that, like I have too many ideas going, that sometimes it's nice with like AI because it just will break it down nice and simple. So she found that like not only was it helping her brainstorm, but it was helping her get focused on, really specific things she wanted to target in her marketing, because you can get that specific in AI and then it will give you a list of ideas. So if maybe before your social content was a little bit all over the place, this could be a way to really help you get focused and get intentional. You could also use AI to look at your reports or your data. So this is a great tool. I haven't used it quite yet all that much. I guess I do in some ways when I'm looking at my ads or things like that. I can look at the data of who's looked at those ads, and then I could actually take that information and retarget my ads to, the people that I think will be the ones who want to see it the most, the ones who will eventually want to buy from me, right? You could also just share a lot of your different reports that you may have with your business, and you can have AI kind of break it down into different ways of how they can really look at it and dissect it. Depending on how big or small your business is and how comfortable you are with AI, there are so many options. There are customer service applications that you can work with. There are ways that AI could help answer frequently asked questions to your customers. There are so many different resources. I will say I haven't fully gotten there yet, but I have a feeling as my business grows, this might be something I want to look into. I know a lot of businesses lately have been starting to get virtual assistants, and now even getting AI virtual assistants. And if you think about it, it's been around for a while. How many times have you called a big company and it starts you with a virtual assistant first, right? So although it may be intimidating, I really always have to go back to the fact that like, okay, it's been around, it's growing, it's developing. I need to learn and grow with it. So those are just some of the ways businesses can use AI. There honestly are so much more. I could probably do a full episode on just that, but I wanted to give you a place to start, because I think that is the most important point of this whole episode, is that even if you are a little bit intimidated about AI, even if you have your hesitations, I would highly suggest that you start out small and play around with it and see if there's things that you want to use. And maybe there's ones that you don't, and that is okay too. But I do believe if we do not start utilizing this tool and this resource, that you are doing yourself a disservice, because I think so many people are using it, so many business owners, so so many everyday people are using it that why not get your time back as well? Use those tips, use those strategies, use those tools while you can. All right, friends, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I would love to hear from all of you. Let me know, what are you using right now that is artificial intelligence? Are you using ChatGPT? Are you using an Alexa? Are you using an app that you cannot live without? I want to know. So connect with me at therenaissancemama.com, or I'm also on Instagram quite often at Courtney Renaissance Mama. I would love to hear from you. Thank you, friends. This has been so much fun. Bye for now, friends.